Lena Horne was Hollywood's first African-American glamorous superstar. For decades, she was known as one of the most beautiful women in the world, revered by black and white audiences alike. Even at 90 years old, the personal life of this complex superstar is still somewhat of a mystery, or at least it was, until Pat Battle talked to author James Gavin about his recently released book, Stormy Weather.
Good morning, James.
Good
nice
morning,
to have
Pat.
you here.
Thrilled.
Oh, I
to
know
be
you
here.
must be thrilled because this is a thrilling book to have an opportunity to write something like this.
One of my idols. I met her in 1994 for the first time when she was on the brink of her last comeback. And she'd been away for a few years. Lena Horne, at that point, had been, for about 4 or 5 years, gone from the public eye. And she had made a new album for Blue Note Records, and she was now making a very uncertain comeback. Uncertain, that is, because she didn't know if she wanted to come back at all. She was nervous. She was 76 years old and wondered if she could still do it. Of course she could.
Of course. For our younger viewers, James, we should explain. She was born in 1917, and she made a professional debut at the legendary Cotton Club as a dancer.
She did indeed. That was 1933. She was, of course, still a teenager, and that was the height of the Depression. And Lena Horne could not dance so great. At that point, she could not sing so great, but she was so beautiful. And she was so fair at a time when people like Cotton Club girls had to be as Caucasianly beautiful as they possibly could, because the Cotton Club shows were basically produced by white people for a white audience.
That's right. A lot of people don't realize that, but indeed it was. And she, of course, look at that picture. I mean, she was just exquisitely beautiful. Is that why white America found it so much easier to accept her when she did burst onto the Hollywood scene? Because, or I shouldn't say burst, crawled like everybody else onto the Hollywood scene. Because up until then, black women had been portrayed as maids and mammies.
She would never have gotten her foot in the door had she not looked like that, and she knew it. And no matter how hard she struggled to be a great singer and a great entertainer, she always knew that it was going to be the beautiful Lena Horne before anything else.
Before anything else. And she didn't feel that beautiful inside, though, all the time, did she? She had a difficult childhood.
She was under tremendous pressure to be a symbol, to be impeccable, to be on a pedestal, and to be scrutinized by everybody as the chosen one of her people. She was Hollywood's first black goddess, the first one who got the full-out glamour treatment that someone like Rita Hayworth would have gotten. And that was a lot of pressure. She felt that she had to be all things to all people, and it was a heavy mantle to bear for her whole life.
And a lot of people don't realize how that affected her. In your research, and believe me, it was lengthy. 5 years of your life you spent writing this book. What did you discover? What were her demons? What was Lena Horne fighting inside?
She grew up feeling terribly alienated and rejected. She had been plucked out of an upper crust Brooklyn background, what was called the black bourgeoisie, dragged through the brutal deep South by her mother, who was an aspiring actress. Her father had deserted the family. She felt like excess baggage that her mother was carting around. And these are the things that drove her and haunted her throughout her whole life. So she always felt like nothing was going to work out, the other shoe was going to drop. This deity that we're seeing on the screen here, whom no one thought had any reason to be unhappy. What pressure she was under.
From so many fronts, too. From the racism that she faced in the world, not just of Hollywood, but in her everyday living. And then, of course, African Americans holding her up as a champion of the race. It must have been a very difficult burden.
Some of them did, and others felt that she was privileged, that she was in a kind of hoity-toity position. She herself, when I talked with her, described her life in the 50s as being in a black ivory tower. And that's the way she was perceived by a lot of people.
And in fact, her second marriage was to a white man, but as that marriage started to crumble, it was because she began to feel...
She began to feel that she was somewhat a traitor to her own race. And she felt like a sellout to white show business. She felt that she was not taken seriously by her own race, that she was playing at places like the Empire Room of the Waldorf Astoria to white upscale audiences and that somehow she had neglected her own people. The next many years of her life were devoted to trying to right what she perceived as that wrong.
Well, the book is called Stormy Weather. It's beautifully written. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing it with us. James Gavin, a long time writing, and it's, I'm sure, well worth the read.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
And we'll be right back with